and contributed widely to both academia and industry. His work uniquely blends behavioral insights with financial market dynamics, making him a distinguished voice in this field. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Abjijit Chandra to the session. Let us give a warm applause for Dr. Chandra.
Thank you very much. I can acknowledge that every word in the introduction is not generated by AI, but hearing it from someone else in front of a large number of people gives us a real feeling. Thank you very much for a very generous and kind introduction, and I really appreciate for the opportunity to the coordinators and almost equal, if not more, gratitude goes to the participants who are willing to spend time with me, listening to me. We faculty members are always privileged. I'm sure most of you are faculty members. I can take that assumption. And when we get the captive audience, we always move from one topic to another topic without any vision or any hesitation, rather non-stop. So whenever you are feeling that I'm deviating or I'm not talking anything sensible, feel free to stop me. I can do the course correction. But yeah, let's start. So the topic is financial markets and AI, and as we speak, AI is moving, evolving. You sleep over with ChatGPT 4.0 and you wake up with ChatGPT 5. It's as evolving as it is. So I don't know whatever I'm going to talk about is going to make sense much, because maybe it is outdated already, or maybe it is moving into the outdated zone sort of. So some things might be relevant, some things might not be so relevant, but I'll still try to make sense out of everything that I'm going to speak, particularly by synthesizing the context. Okay. So I have decided to divide my talk into 3 chapters. We academicians are always fond of chapterization, right from writing PhD thesis to dividing the syllabus for our students. Everything is divided into chapters, modules. So I'm going to talk in 3 distinct chapters. The first chapter will be, what I'm going to talk about. The AI part or the AI in finance part of it. That will be the first chapter. Second chapter will be focused on something related to the ongoing changes or ongoing practices in finance research with the context of AI applications. And the third chapter, which is very close to my heart, because it is based on my research, or our research. So third chapter will be based on our research that we have done using some AI, some related applications, moving from the traditional research of finance to something that is slightly more contemporary, where AI has played some role. So I'll try to synthesize all these 3 chapters in one big picture, like how AI and finance are coming together, particularly from a researcher's point of view. I'm not a practitioner, so I might not know much about what is happening in the industry. If you have any idea, feel free to share. If you have any question at any point of time, do share. And remember, I keep telling this to the class whenever I take in my institution, that if you don't ask questions, then be prepared to answer questions. Okay, so if I do not hear questions from you, then I will start asking questions to each one of you. And I can see you are divided into 6 nice groups, so that will make it even more exciting. Okay, So, all right. So, I mean, who part is already taken care of? There are 4 questions. So, who part is already taken care of by our host? What part is about the things that I just mentioned? So, I'll talk more about how AI and finance are coming together. 1, in general context. 2, in finance research. And 3, in our research. Or as in like the research that I'm doing with my collaborators, my doctoral students, my undergraduate students. So that I'll talk a bit later. And why and how, why is like on a lighter note, you don't have a choice. You have come all the way to attend this FTP and I have come all the way to speak on some topic. So you have to be here, I have to be here, so there is no choice. Why is, by design. And how is, as I mentioned, interaction. So I'll show you some examples, I'll talk about some cases, and then I'll jump with some questions, I'll jump to answer some questions. So let's see how it goes. I don't know, I mean, the stage is set on a very high note, like the Minister of Education for the state has already set the stage, and I'm feeling like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about once everyone has heard so many dignitaries already. So let's see. So these are the things. And all right, so let's start with the first chapter. Okay. So chapter 1 is about what about AI? What do we mean when we say AI in finance? I mean, we have heard about all of it, like we have heard about ChatGPT, we have heard about AI coming in a big way to replace us, or people who know AI are going to replace us. But what is this AI that we are talking about? I mean, is it some sort of, like a robot that those Hollywood and later on Bollywood movies showed us? Or is it some sort of algorithm? Or what exactly about this AI that we all are, talking about here? So to start with, let me just show a sort of, evolution of computation or application of statistical methods in computation for the purpose of understanding the context. So typically, we have this broad overview of computation where we have some data, we apply some statistical method, some mathematical method, some analytical methods, and then we get some insights out of it. We try to infer some understanding based on the data or the data analysis, and that's what we have been doing since ages. When people of Stone Era used to decide where to go for hunting, they also used to do some sort of data analysis, some sort of computation about like for what type of animal hunting, how many people should go, and so on and so forth. So computation is very generic, very basic as such. What after that? Then came this recent development in AI and machine learning, which means machines have started to learn on their own using the data that were fed into them. So for example, if I'm feeding the data into some sort of machine, whether virtual or physical, the machine has started using the data into auto computation and then started making inferences, making further judgment, further improvisation based on the insights or the analysis that it has done already on the available data. Then comes this recent development that is is known as generative AI. When you give too much power to someone or something, it starts with misusing, if not abusing, of the powers, and that's what generative AI, in a subtle way, is about. When you give too much data into the system, into the machine that is computing, the machine starts evolving and starts giving a lot of input that you might not need, that you might not, probably require for your immediate purpose. And that's where generative AI, is born. You have machine, you have the data, you have algorithm, and then it all comes into the autopilot mode where it started generating more and more data. And more data means it will train, it will do more and more computation on its own, at your prompt, at your direction or command, but many a times it will do it on its own, you know. And then the latest development is agentic AI, where you know it's like machine itself is behaving like the agent or the the one who is giving command. It's very much like you can relate this development from a very simple analogy. Let's say when we used to do this simple Google search. You have this Google search in a browser. You type in your search query, you click button, and then the Google gives you output, right? And then Google introduced this voice or image-based search, where you have to give the command or you have to upload the image or the voice for enabling the Google to do search action. And then this new type of machines came, for example Siri or Alexa, where you have to start the prompt, start the command with a particular keyword, then it gets activated and it does the job. Like if you have an Alexa will not start working unless you start the sentence or the command with the word Alexa. So it gets activated with the word or with the help of one keyword. And then these agentic AI or advanced AI applications came where you don't have to give any command. It will keep on monitoring all the time, and the moment it catches something that needs its attention, it will start acting upon it. For example, let's say pilotless car, like where driver is not needed. So you can see the evolution, right? I mean, where a human being has to give prompt. Another time you have to give a prompt in a particular fashion, and now you don't have to give a prompt. It is already active, it is already awake, and the moment it sees something needing attention, it will start acting upon it. So that's what the evolution of this, computation moving forward with the latest development as agentic AI has come. I have tried to keep it, generalized. Of course, there are a lot of things have happened in between. It's not like right from computation we have moved to machine learning and AI. But yes, we can say that this is how the computation has evolved into what we see nowadays as agentic AI. Now that we know what we have today as AI engines or AI systems, where we can see from different developers, different companies, different entities pushing towards their own product. For example, you can see Google has its own AI product where you can use it for probably the same thing that OpenAI is doing for their own product, right? You don't see much of the difference. Maybe the difference is in terms of time it is taking to computation for computation, or the kind of input it is taking. But the job broadly is done in a similar way by almost all the agents that we see nowadays. Right from ChatGPT to Gemini, Cloud, even Gork of X. Everyone is doing more or less same thing. They are relying on a pool of data and using that data to produce something that you have asked it to produce, and subsequently, it starts giving some bit of auto or unwarranted output as well. Now, why I am saying unwarranted? Because at many places you must have seen, particularly on social media platform Twitter or X, what we call it today. You can see that Gork has started giving more human responses because it has evolved on the basis of the data that it has access to, and that's why I am saying that sometimes it starts giving unwarranted output. Now, this is the generic evolution, generic scenario of AI. I have not brought this evolution for the purpose of AI in finance, but I just wanted to give where we stand today in the AI space. Now, why it is important? Of course, we all know that we all need ChatGPT or Cloud to give us immediate response, immediate information. That is important. But why it is important in general for finance and related disciplines, both for practitioners and for, of course, us academicians. So this is one very interesting piece of research or data that probably many of you must have seen somewhere in either the form of article or concerns or opinion, where more and more job postings, online job postings particularly, have started capturing these keywords in recent times, particularly after the introduction of ChatGPT. Now, this is not, I would say, like as a typical faculty member, I would say that who cares? I don't bother about it. Why should I care if there are more jobs being created with the keyword related to AI? But as an academician, you are looking for some interesting research problems as well, right? And research problems are sooner or later connected with the industry practices, and that's where your concern should be on why more and more job postings are happening in AI. And it's just not the job posting. We will see more about it, but it's not just the job posting that has these keywords related to AI, but also the research. I am a very sort of, you can say, active social media user. So I keep talking about these developments based on my research, based on my observation on several social media platforms. I'm not an Instagrammer, by the way. I don't look so good in videos, so I don't do that. But yeah, I mean, other platforms I try to post. So I keep seeing that whenever I put keywords such as things related to AI, my posts get more attention from the audiences. I don't know yet whether it is the algorithm in the background or it is genuinely the interest of the people who are seeing my post on their walls and liking it or disliking it or commenting on it. But what I'm trying to say is, whenever we talk about something that is already happening, is it the thing that we are talking about is important, or is it the thing that is already happening and that is why we are talking? So sooner or later, you have to be in the game. So if as an academician you think that I don't care whether AI related jobs are increasing or decreasing, I'm more concerned about how many papers I can get using AI or not using AI. So sooner or later, probably you have to be in the game, either for the reason of development of a paper, or for the reason that your students are well prepared and might give you some sort of research problem later on. So that's why for academicians also, I think this understanding of the industry evolution or the relevance of these development is surely important. Now, let's try to show my experiment with one of the AI engines. So this particular graph I have deliberately put because it is the output of a ChatGPT. What I did, if you look at the details given there, I wanted to see whether ChatGPT is smart enough. And what I did, I just gave a prompt saying that let's draw and analyze the Beveridge curve for India, which is not easy, right? I mean, Beveridge curve is typically the relationship between unemployment and the job vacancy. Okay, economics people might be able to relate immediately. So when we say Beveridge curve for India, we don't have published data on unemployment rates and job vacancy. Unlike in USA, where they have this Bureau of Labor Standards or something, BLS, and they have also fed from different states, giving all sort of macroeconomic data frequently. In India, we do not have that kind of thing. In India, if you look out for unemployment rate, probably people will direct you to CMI surveys. Government does not publish this unemployment rate data very frequently. So getting this curve for India is not an easy task. But yes, you can see the curve is okay. It's not very smooth, very impressive. But what they did, what the ChatGPT did in the background, it tried to find out some proxies which may be related to the job vacancies. One of the proxies that is very common, very popular is this Naukri.com job speaks surveys. So they get online data from all the postings, job postings, and it uses the proxy for creating this beverage curve. And I kind of like this because it does not take much time. It does the entire work on its own. I did not prompt it again and again. I've given the link. Once I share the PPT, you can check the link, and it shows all the data along with the graph with brief analysis on its own. I just asked it to create beverage curve and plot it, not just the data. I wanted ChatGPT to plot. So you can understand that many times you might give some more relevant prompts and you get the output as you want. But many times you give some prompt, it the ChatGPT interprets, or for that matter any AI engine interprets on its own, and then uses some proxies to produce some output. Right? Fair enough. For a researcher, it's quite helpful. Let's try to see some more examples. Mind it, I am still talking about where do we stand in the AI space. Okay, I have not come to the finance part yet, but we are gradually moving towards it. So let's see what it does. What exactly happens when we give some prompt, some command to ChatGPT. Many of us already know it, but let me try to bring everyone on the same page. That's the job of a good instructor, to bring everyone in the captive audience on the same page. So what happens when we give prompt to the ChatGPT or any such AI engine is typically prompt is given, and then we have this orchestrator or engine, we can call it engine, where we have this some sort of algorithm, you can call large language model based engines, where they do the most of the heavy lifting work, like getting to the data, getting to the analysis part, and of course it uses several tools in the process. I mean, you can get data from different sources. Sometimes you have to cross some boundaries also. So what this orchestrator does is, it uses the reasoning engine based on any LLM model, and then it uses tools depending on what kind of queries you have given, what kind of prompts you have given, and then based on the memory, it takes time to produce the result, right? So this is what a typical LLM-based AI engine works, right? Let's look at simple examples. So suppose I give a prompt to AI engine or to, let's say, ChatGPT for example, that what is the weather condition in the city at the moment. So what it does, it immediately gives you, after a few seconds of thinking, it gives you immediate response. But what exactly happens in the background is, it first have some sort of thought process that what I have to do. And if you are AI engine, you have to do this entire from prompt to result. You have to think about like what all exactly is needed in this case. So when we have to give the current weather condition, I need to check the current weather condition in the city. So what happens in the background is, it runs some sort of program, some sort of code. This is an indicative code for this particular prompt, where it will just get the location and the weather instruct. It will go for the relevant API, where, for example, in this case, it would be weather API. It could be either some websites or some government source where they will display the weather of different cities based on the pin code or location or whatever is the specification. And then later on, once it gets the result from the tool, it will display the result to the user, right? So that's what typically happens. Okay. very simple example of what happens in the background when we give any prompt to AI. Now let's look at slightly sophisticated example, or maybe something that is of interest. So for example, I give a prompt to the same GPT tool that plot the US unemployment rate and inflation for last 20 years. Now, it's not as simple as the earlier case was. Now, what happens in this case? I mean, as a researcher, I need to understand what is happening in the background. That is why I'm trying to show what happens in this case, right? So, this is the standard result. If you give this prompt to ChatGPT, this is the standard result that you get, right? But how does we get to this point where you have this image, where you have this graph showing unemployment rate and inflation for the past 20 years for the US, is how this works exactly through that particular architecture. So when we give the prompt, it thinks for a while, it thinks for a couple of, or maybe 10 seconds or so, what all is needed in this case where the prompt is asking for plotting a particular variable or a set of variables. So it finds out that there are two data series that it needs. One is, of course, unemployment rate, and another is a CPI-based inflation indicator, and the source. Then it goes on action mode. You know, the engine goes into action mode. It extracts the data from relevant sources through API. Again, here the API is accessing the Federal Reserve data. Once it gets the data, then the first step or first set of observations says that you have got the data, now you have to save it, right? Because once you save it, then only you can do something else. You cannot directly plot the data after getting from the API. So you get the data, you save it, then again you think for it. Like, okay, now you have the data, you have to plot it, because you have to, when you have to plot it, you have to not only plot the data that you have got, you have to see whether it is plotted correctly, whether x-axis, y-axis are correctly plotted or not. So you do the thinking, then subsequently it goes into another set of actions where it gives command related to naming the variable, naming the axis, putting all the data into proper axis, and then subsequently getting the relevant prompt or relevant code for converting the numbers, converting the data into line graph or whatever type of chart or image is necessary. And then it will put on the relevant names for all the axes as well as the graph. And then finally the chart is created or the graph is created, and subsequently the graph is presented to the user in the form it requires. And if there is any relevant explanation is to be done, that also has to be done at this stage where the GPT engine thinks for a minute and gives what kind of analysis you need for explaining the graph or the output that you have. So this is what happens when you give a simple prompt that generate or plot a graph of unemployment rate and inflation for past 20 years, and you get the result like this. So you can imagine that at what stages things might be working in the background, and as a researcher, for me, probably it is not necessary, but it goes without saying that you can imagine that at any point of time, if the data source of the API or anything that is not working as expected, then the entire output might be distorted. So and I can tell you a very simple example from my personal experience, like how your GPT experience could be suboptimal. So of late, I uses GPT. There is no shame in it. Everyone does that. I don't know about everyone, but I do. So once I searched about something related to geopolitical issues, and it gave me some result. And later on, whenever I was trying to find out something, let's say I had to interview one candidate, and I uploaded the CV asking for some red flag sort of thing from the CV, and it started giving me that geopolitical results. So every time I'm asking something, the ChatGPT was giving me some information related to the same question that I asked earlier about geopolitical thing. But like for example, let's say India-Russia relationship, I asked. And every time I'm asking something about a CV or something about some economic issue, something else, the results are always hovering around the India-Russia relationship. You can imagine what might have gone wrong, right? Because in the memory, whenever this orchestrator, whenever this architecture orchestrator part of the architecture was working on the extraction of the information, it was messing up with the memory, and that is where the entire output was going wrong. So, as a researcher, particularly when you are interfacing with the AI, then you must know what tool you are using and where all it can go wrong. That's the generic stuff related to AI. Now, enough of what AI is about. By the way, you have any observation or any of your experience that you would want to share, or anything that you find not convincing in my arguments or my examples? You have? No? You're doing your job. Okay. All right.
I like you said that ChatGPT is suboptimal. Sir, yes, I agree with you. Long time back, when I was trying to solve problem,
Yeah, I can hear.
So I was trying to solve the problem that was related to question solver. Like it was a company that we by solving questions. So I could not clear that questions because it was super tough. It was it was a very tough questions. All questions were tough. So I took the help of ChatGPT. I was very new to ChatGPT. So all the questions I got the answer from ChatGPT. But unfortunately, whatever, I could not clear that. So it was suboptimal. So I tried myself independently. Later on, I took my time and I managed it. But using ChatGPT, I could not clear that platform. Secondly, when we are talking about the ChatGPT that you mentioned here, the coding that you showed to us, it is very nice. I am also using. I find that yes, ChatGPT helps us to keep all the coding. But being a known coder, it is very difficult to understand, the coding sentence, what it is trying to say. So it is very difficult. And thirdly, I feel that we are talking right now things very positively about everything is good about AI. But I feel, sir, when you were talking, that there is a problem also, like AI, it can be misused also.
Yes.
So what is being what the government or what the responsible authority is doing to see that it is not being misused?
Okay, yeah. So three things, a very interesting point. So first point, I'll summarize it. So first point is that natural intelligence is always superior to artificial intelligence. Okay, that is the first point he said. Second thing is about the ethics part is about last, right? Third point.
Yes.
Second point was about
the coding, sir.
Okay, coding. So I showed the code that was in the background. Any individual using the ChatGPT or for that matter AI tool is not required to learn those codes. These codes were shown as the background resource, and in the background of your result, of your prompt and subsequently result, these things were happening. That is what I showed. And for that matter, I think nowadays, or maybe couple of years down the line, I should not say even 5 years, maybe just 2 years down the line, there will be hardly anyone who will be doing the actual coding, because most of the things are already available, and these AI-based tools are doing most of the coding part. In fact, no-code regime has already started in most of the companies as we speak. So knowing coding is not very envious skill set that is required at the moment. I don't do much coding. I mean, I don't do coding at all nowadays because we have the privilege of having undergraduate students who are more passionate about coding. So who says no to free labor? So yeah, we do that. But yeah, so coding part is, I think, still negotiable. Even if we don't know it, we can still manage to run the show. And third part about this biasness or ethics or misuse, I think I can see where you are coming from. So for example, I have a student who was interested in finance, but eventually he got coding more fascinating. He went on to do PhD, and currently he is working in some responsible AI company. So responsible AI is basically what we are talking about, right? So when we search, let's say in a simple Google search also, let's say if we search that, show me the image of a very decent teacher, and most of the time, or most of the search results would show you a very decent, fair skin, in most cases maybe a female teacher, in the context of India. In the context of US, white, male teachers, like a typical search result. So that's what this responsible AI is talking about nowadays. That when you train your algorithm, when you train your engine, when you train your algorithm on some data that has some biasness in itself, then what do you expect as result? When obviously the bias was inbuilt during training part itself. So unless you have this issue resolved at the training stage itself, you will always get that misuse part of AI coming in. One misuse that as faculty unofficially I can say that is our students submitting assignments done by AI. And they are so smart. They not only generate the assignment from ChatGPT, they also use another AI engine that humanizes it. Right? I'm sure, I don't know, there are some students sitting here, they might find it offensive, but I envy them. They have that kind of smartness that they create something and then they humanize so that human cannot, trace it. But, okay, we are living in different times. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. So related to this assignment thing, ChatGPT, okay, the non-AI tool. So what I want to say is, okay, AI is doing a very great job, but what AI is doing is it only the answer that is required or the process of answering is required? I mean, whenever we give an assignment, it's a fabulous assignment, okay? Correct, vocabulary is correct, the grammatical error is not there, but what the AI is doing is the thinking capacity of a student, they're reducing it. They're getting already made up answers. So we cannot deny it, that is a wrong answer, but what AI is doing is, they are not thinking it, they are not going to a library, they are not, using their brain, and then I think that is a question, that is a big question for negativity, because it's reducing the capacity of a brain. It's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And then after that, the questioning, the questioning capacity is also reduced because they are getting a ready-made answer. So ready-made answer is correct, but the process of answering, like whenever we were in school, like colleges, whenever the assignment was given, we used to go to a library and then we used to find different books and then we used to do assignment. Okay, fine, that was good, but effort was there. Going to a library is also effort. Then finding a book is also effort. But now we are getting a ready-made answer. We are also using it, no doubt. But still, I feel that is a matter of concern. The thinking capacity, the reasoning capacity, and that is not increasing but reducing day by day because of the ready-made answer. I feel only the answer is not important, the process of answering, that is important.
Yes. Absolutely. I think I absolutely agree with you that the process is equally important. And at the moment it seems that our younger generation, the students are losing on that. They are not really concerned about the process, but I think it's okay. Why I'm saying it's okay, One, because I trust our students. I mean, I trust them more than I do myself, because they are living in a different times. They are going to live in a more different or rather difficult times ahead. So as they say that human being cannot be, be of one type all the time. So if they are seeing that at this moment thinking is not necessary, maybe sooner or later they will realize that this thinking will be required for something else. Like if not for thinking about assignment, maybe thinking about something else. So I'm sure there are many students you must have seen as well where they are not putting much effort for the classroom assignments, but they are putting much more effort for some task that they have got as part of the internship, or maybe some live project that they are working with for some startup or something. So I'm sure they will do better in future. So yes, we are concerned as every parent is about their kids. So, but yes, they will get through it. I think I have no doubt about it. And as we speak, as we move forward, we are also going to get a bit of taste of these tools, like they are doing it, and that's why probably we are discussing it, right? That what can we do with AI in finance? What AI is doing in finance? So let's see, and particularly me. I mean, I promised that I'll talk about what AI is all about here, how AI is entering the finance research, and how we, as a research group in our school, are doing some bit of AI-based research in finance and successfully publishing as well. But so let me move to the second part of it, where we see some examples what AI is doing in finance and economics research. But let me warn you, so at the end of this second chapter, I would expect you to think of one interesting problem, research problem, either within the group or individually, where you can base your problem either on the example that I'm going to show or something different. Okay? So I would come to each one of you, maybe each group, and then I'll expect at least one interesting problem, research problem that you can think of after looking at my examples. Maybe related, not so related, that's okay. So let me show some examples of what AI is doing, particularly in finance research, okay? So some of these examples are from published research, some of these are from unpublished research. Later on I'll also show some of our published research as well. So let's start with very simple spectrum. So what exactly is the possibility that AI can do? AI and machine learning are used simultaneously. So AI can do in finance research. So what we do in finance, if I become a faculty for a moment, finance faculty, I'd say that in finance we do only 4 things, particularly in finance as such. In core finance, we do either something related to capital budgeting decisions, or working capital management decisions, or capital structure decisions, or dividend policy decisions, right? Something related to that. You will say that, okay, stock price, that is related to capital budgeting, right? I mean, we need to find some sort of discounting rate, and that is why we are trying to go for finding the cost of equity using CAPM model, and then subsequently weighted average cost of capital is calculated, and later on that weighted average cost of capital is used for discounting the future cash flows and so on and so forth. So anything that we do largely in finance is related to these 4 aspects. So at some point of time, we can do one or the other part of those bigger finance problems using AI. So if you look at these examples, the spectrum that I'm talking about where AI can be applied. So one thing that is very commonly used is stock price prediction. It's fairly simple. You have a time series data, historical data, you use in some engine, and then engine will give you, on the basis of some iterations, a fairly accurate stock price prediction for near term, next term, future, etc., and so on, depending on what kind of data you are feeding, what kind of model you are relying to. So stock price prediction is one thing that is fairly common in AI in the area of applications of AI in finance. Then, if we talk about fraud detection, many of us have been getting into this forensic accounting part of research, right? Where we try to see if we can look at the historical trends from the accounting data or financial data and trace if there are any, some unusual numbers, unusual behavior, unusual pattern, and then based on that, we can relate to the frauds or a possibility of frauds, right? So there, AI can come in big way. What might be missed out from your observation, your calculation, your accounting analysis might not be missed from a very well-trained AI engine. They can definitely get into a more sophisticated analysis of financial statements and trace some idea for possibility of a fraud or something that is unusual, right? That is one thing that is definitely going to see or going to get benefited with the advent of AI in finance research, forensic accounting or fraud detection. Third thing that I like but I also dislike, the synthetic data generation. Many a times we don't have data. We don't have data for something that we want to work on. At that stage, maybe AI can help us in generating some synthetic data. Of course, there are problems, there are advantages, disadvantages, but at least you can have something to start with, right? If you want to start with some idea, let's say, I want to conduct experiments to understand investors' behavior, right? For example, I'll give you one very simple example. Let's say I want to understand whether physical conditions can change our response to stock market scenarios or investment behavior. Let's say I have some investment decision to make for myself, for my client, and the condition that I'm living in has a role to play. For example, if it is too hot and humid, I can take a wrong decision, right? The physical condition, the environmental condition can affect my judgment, my decision-making capability. It is very natural, right? I mean, if you have to do a stock trading decision and you are sitting in a very hot and humid climate for consistently 3 hours, so you might not take the best of the decision at that moment. But I want to test it. I want to